गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ओम 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 श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। नमामि गौडपादञ्च शङ्करं श्रीसुरेश्वरं स्वामिनं सच्चिदानन्दमिन्द्रं तं ज्ञानरूपिणे। ओम ओम नारायण। सूत्रभाष्यप्रणेतारौ वेदान्ताब्जप्रभाकरौ वन्दे परस्परात्मानौ बादरायणशङ्करौ। We were discussing Bhamati, reply by the Siddhanti to the Paksha of Bhamatikara. Bhamatikara told that Adhyasa is no doubt avidya, but Adhyasa has a samskara. Adhyasa, when it goes away, not by jnanam, because Adhyasa being a product, it is born at one time and again at some other time it just dissolves in the sense it disappears. Since it is produced, it will also go. So when it goes away, it leaves some samskara. And the same samskara, when at its own time, at a certain time, at a suitable time, produces Adhyasa. And Adhyasa at certain time, when it goes away, goes away, it leaves impression, samskara. That samskara again produces Adhyasa. Therefore, Adhyasa alone is not avidya. What he means to say is, Adhyasa is no doubt avidya, but Adhyasa alone is not avidya. Adhyasa samskara put together, that series of Adhyasa samskara put together, this whole one is avidya. Therefore, jnanam should be able to remove not only Adhyasa, but it has to remove Adhyasa along with its samskara, which is its root. Samskara is the root of Adhyasa. If without removing samskara, only Adhyasa is removed, then the samskara remaining hidden, unnegated, that will again sprout into Adhyasa. This is what his view was. Therefore, jnanam should be able to remove not only Adhyasa, but its samskara also. To this, Siddhanti's reply was that this kind of explanation is not acceptable to Bhashya. Shruti also doesn't say that. Shruti says avidya alone is to be removed, but other than Adhyasa something else, nowhere Shruti says, and it is against logic also. So one first answer Siddhanti gives is tentatively, partly he accepts it, partially he accepts it from Vyavaharik standpoint. From empirical standpoint it is okay, because the Adhyasa of the body, see, not from the Vyavaharik standpoint, see one thing, Vyavaharik standpoint means from the waking standpoint you look at Sushupti, this waking state goes into sleep and again comes back. So in this sense he is taking. In Vyavaharik standpoint means, one should be clear here, Adhyasa Adhyasa is one common, the root of entire thing. That is aham pratyaya, you can say. Atma anatma adhyasa is atma anatma adhyasa, and the dharma or quality, let us say, qualities of atma, and they are not really qualities, but just for sake of clarity we use it. The dharma, the nature of atma anatma, when mutually exchanged, that is the basic adhyasa, fundamental adhyasa. Okay. This Adhyasa Bhashya itself is going to say later. One is fundamental Adhyasa, others are secondary Adhyasa. Secondary Adhyasa means, now fundamental Adhyasa is Atma Anatma, that is Aham Buddhi and Chaitanya Atma. This is the fundamental, that means the root, the basic Adhyasa. Then its ramifications, if you see the quality of the body, mind. So the rebirth is also part of Adhyasa. Okay, rebirth is also part of Adhyasa. I think, shall I clarify one point? Just as Rama. Deha is Adhyasa, means you impose the body upon the Atma, and mind, prana, deha, prana, mind, all these are also adhyasas. But a general adhyasa, a specific adhyasa. I think this makes sense better. Samanya adhyasa, vishesha adhyasa. A general samanya vishesha means like a jati and an individual, a class and an individual. Like Manushya Jati and a given Manushya individual. Given Manushya is a Vishesha, Manushya Jati is Samanya. Okay, Go Jati is Samanya, and the individual cow is Vishesha. So Samanya, Vishesha, when we say, Samanya Adhyasa is there, but Vishesha keeps changing. Okay. Isn't it? Vishesha keeps changing. Now, for example, by example directly Anubhava let us take. That I am an individual is a Jiva Bhava. Jivatvam means sense of individuality is Jiva Bhava. So Jiva Bhava, in Jiva Bhava body is there, but not a specific body. A specific body keeps changing. You have in Manushya Janma human body. You have in Devata Janma Devata body. You have in animal Janma animal body. In Pitruloka you have a Pitru body. So your body changes according to the condition. But body in general remains the same. Okay. So some or other body is invariable, is inevitable. Some or other body is inevitable, but a particular body is due to karma. Particular body is due to particular karma, and a body in general is inevitable for Jiva Bhava. To be Jiva, you are inevitably associated with a body, because it is the body alone makes you limited. Jiva by his nature is limited. Jiva by his very nature is limited. And for the limitation has a specific form. It is a variable form. So in one condition you have one body, in another time another body, another body, another body, keeps changing some or other body, keeps changing some body. But some or other body is inevitable. Okay, you see the subtle difference between a general and a specific, Samanya and Vishesha. So the Samanya is Adhyasa, Vishesha is within Adhyasa, but it is due to specific karma. Okay, it is like a tree is general, but a particular tree, mango tree or a margosa tree or any other tree, tamarind tree or a coconut tree, is a specific jati, a specific species. But a tree is a common name. Any green, any plant is a common, plant kingdom is common. Similarly here, Adhyasa implies a common thing, a common jivatvam, a general, in general sense, a particular body is due to karma. Okay. So here he says, if you, this, I have to explain this because simple reason is Adhyasa has no samskara. This is straightway. Adhyasa has no samskara, and this is the basic defect of that Purvapakshi. Purvapakshi means that Bhamati is not in fact Purvapakshi, they are Advaitins only, but a certain variation within Advaiti. We can't call them totally non-Advaitins. They are not non-Vedantins. They are not non-Advaitins. Within Advaitin, a kind of explanation which is not logical, which is not really helping in understanding the truth. It is obstructing, it is giving a little trouble. It is not very perfect explanation, let us say. It is a broadly true, but it's not a perfect explanation. So it is not accurately correct. I think that's better to say. It is not accurately correct. It is broadly okay, but accurately it goes wrong. So to just correct that accurate minute mistake, so though he is our own Advaitin, his own a slightly deviated explanation we are correcting. Okay, if you keep this in view, no disrespect to Bhamatikara, because he is our own Acharya, our own Guru, our own senior most Guru, 1000 years ago. Okay, 1 century later than removed from Shankaracharya. So a few explanations are not so perfectly correct, so we are trying to correct it for our own sake, not to find fault with him, for our own sake, for the next generation. The same thing, Guru's explanation should be taken a little more, slightly correcting them thoroughly, correcting them so that the explanation becomes more convincing and correct one, so that your understanding of Atma will become clear. Okay, for that purpose alone we are. So the contrast, the purpose of contrasting is to make it accurate and perfectly clear. The purpose of contrasting with others' idea is to make it very clear, minutely clear and perfect. Okay. So therefore, just for sake of clarity, we are contrasting. He told Adhyasa has a beginning, Adhyasa is born and dies, Adhyasa is produced and recedes. Produced and recedes. Something like manifests and recedes. Then in between what happens? It remains in the form of samskara. So what he says is there is something outside Adhyasa, other than Adhyasa. This is the defect. The defect lies in here. They try to present something outside Adhyasa. Adhyasa itself is an error or a misunderstanding. So anything other than Brahman has to be misunderstanding, because anything other than Brahman cannot be non-misunderstanding. If it is not misunderstanding, then it has to be real like Brahman. This is the simple basic principle. This is the basic principle. We have to keep it. And then any other thing goes wrong. Simple thing is, everything is Brahman alone, non-dual Brahman. If you see something other than Brahman, something more than Brahman, something different from Brahman, these are all expression, way of telling. All of them mean the same thing. Something more, there is no such thing called more. When it is absolute non-duality, you can't think of more. Just for sake of, so any word means the same thing. Something different from Brahman, something more than Brahman, something other than Brahman. This, the very thought of other than, thought of different, thought of more, itself is Adhyasa. Itself is an imposition, itself is a misunderstanding. Therefore, this is the basic principle of Adhyasa. This is what Shankara stand. This is what Sachidananda Swamiji is trying to defend. Keep this in mind. This is what we are trying to defend. And keeping this in view, other way of explanation goes wrong. That's what we mean. We are only disputing about the way of explanation. Ultimately, they mean the same truth, but their way of presenting is going somewhat wrong. Though they mean the same, but they say something different from what they mean. Probably this is what my understanding. They ultimately mean the same, but their presentation is giving a different impression. Then why should we allow that a wrong expression which is giving a totally different impression from the real fact? Okay. Therefore, we are only analyzing their way of presentation and showing his way of presentation is slightly deviating. It is giving a different impression and it is not giving an accurate and correct understanding. Therefore, to make it correct, we just correct it. Okay? So we correct their view and show how his way of presentation is wrong. So we are not treating them as a totally Purvapaksha. Purvapaksha means non-Vedantin. He is not non-Vedantin. He is a Vedantin alone. If he is a Vedantin, no, people try to say, if he is a Vedantin, don't find fault with him. And then if he is a non-Vedantin, anyway he is non-Vedantin, he could be wrong. Therefore he is others. Now this categorizing is too much. This is a too rigid categorizing. Within Advaitins also their way of presentation will be slightly deviation. It is not accurately pointing out the right fact. Okay. So this is how we have to understand within Vedanta. We are, in fact, the whole Sugama discusses all the Purvapakshas, means a slightly deviated interpretations. All of them are within Advaita. All of them are within Advaita. The very strangeness of Sachidananda Swamiji's is all the Purvapakshas he touches. Rarely one or two he touches of Sankhya and others. But all his Purvapakshas are within Advaita alone. Within Advaita alone, a slight deviated interpretations, he takes them and contrasts it. You can see the Shankaras very accurate, very minutely correct. So to help you to understand that minutely and understanding of Shankara, we contrast with his post-Shankarites explanation. How they slightly deviate. We don't know why, because the students in front of them were such that for sake of them they are over-interpreting. In the process of trying to explain their students, they went little deviated. They are interpreting. Sometimes you see the student doesn't understand when you tell exactly the point. And he doesn't understand. Again you explain, again you explain, again you explain. Then for sake of him, you want a little deviate and you go little broadly. In the name of giving more explanation, over explanation, you slightly move away from the fact and become little deviated. So there we have to understand the purpose was to help a particular student who is unable to understand. Now don't take this explanation as real Vedanta and the deviation is also essential part of Vedanta and you go on. This is what the defect happened. Acharyas did not mean them, but this is what happened. Therefore, Swamiji wanted to correct them by the deviation. Now, the later people say that, oh, Swamiji is finding fault with our own Advaita Acharyas and it is a big thing. I say people are unable to think, I think. People are unable to think the real purpose of it. So, instead of seeing these things, we started dividing people. He is different and we are different. It is not dividing the people, it is not disrespecting the people, okay? It is trying to understand that minute details, okay? The subtle difference, so that you can be very accurate and your understanding become easy, okay? Correct and easy. That is the purpose. Therefore, seeing this much of difference, people go to another extreme. Because people means some shallow people. Some shallow people, oh, you are differing from others, you are criticizing others. So criticism means only hatred, they take like that. Criticism means hatred, hatred means only dividing. No, you are also Advaitin, you are a Vedantin, you should see all are one. All are one, all Jesus is one, all Allah is one, and everything is one. You have to say that. Then you say everything is one, even the wrong philosophy is also one. We believe all are true. And you see, you are a Vedantin, you are Advaitin. Why do you try to see the differences? You shouldn't see difference. You should see only Brahma everywhere. Anybody says anything, Hitler is also Brahma, Mussolini is Brahma, Osama bin Laden is also Brahma, Ravana is Brahma, Kamsa is Brahma. You meditate on anybody, you will realize Brahma. I said, this is okay for emotional explanation. If there is a student, even I also would do like that. If he is emotional fellow, incapable of thinking, he is equal to donkey, then I will also give such an explanation. I tell you, we are not against it. We also give such a donkey's explanation. If somebody is like that. If some student comes like that, we also say. We are only tackling an emotional problem, incapable of thinking, incapable of seeing the subtle difference. Don't say that they alone are giving, we are finding fault with them. Even I would do the same nonsense. Because the student is such, he doesn't understand, he is only going by emotion. Okay, everything is same. Yes. At least you are emotionally, you will not have hatred, you will not have anger. At least your mind will be relieved of tension. You won't hate anybody, you will say everything, nice feeling you have got. For the sake of nice feeling, we will give you all explanation. But that is only handling an emotional problem. It is not discovering a fact. Okay, we have to see this difference. I think even after listening to Vedanta, so much people are worried. Oh, you are criticizing, you are criticizing. Hey, it is a Vedantic discussion. It is a Vedantic discrimination. It is a Vedantic analysis. Don't put them into an ordinary human beings of hating people. Oh, even you see Sureshwaracharya. Sureshwaracharya differs from Shankara in certain points. He gives a different explanation. But he is a staunch devotee of Shankara. Oh, he was a staunch devotee of Shankara. So don't bring emotional differences here. Emotionally, there is no disrespect. Even if we show the difference from Bhamati Kara, still we respect. He is our Guru, he is our Acharya. Even if we criticize, still he is our Acharya, he is our Guru. We wait for his blessing. We only live under his blessing. We very tender feelings, very delicate feelings we have for them, and we were very presence, we feel very, our heart is moved by his very presence. That respect-wise, there is no compromise at all. He is a respectable person. He deserves all veneration from us, and we think of him, we meditate on him, and do all this. But the idea is different. When idea goes wrong, we correct it, what is wrong. In fact, our Guruji also will be very happy with that, with us. Supposing if he says something, no, Guruji, if we say like this, it is better. He would say, yes, you are correct. He will be very happy. Because we feel so intimate with him, we love them, we respect them, therefore we take that freedom to correct, technically correct it. The idea-wise, the presentation-wise, we try to correct them so that the idea will become correctly. The presentation will be correct. Out of our love for them, out of our veneration for them, we take this freedom and correct our own previous acharyas. Okay, take it this way. So don't bring your emotion and division and hatred and all that. That's not required. We are interested in truth. Why going into all these unnecessary details? Unnecessary divisiveness. Okay. Therefore, so first thing is Swamiji is telling here, you see, Bhamati Kara's explanation is okay from one standpoint. But if you take it really from the Atma standpoint, it doesn't work. It goes wrong. So his presentation also can be explained. It holds valid for empirical from a Vyavaharic standpoint. Because they are acharyas, respectable people, when they give certain answer, we have to try to see from what standpoint he must be answering. He is giving that particular explanation from a given standpoint. This is how our Hindu way of explaining any Shastra, any point, whether Purana or Smriti or Veda or Vedanta or Bhakti Shastra. If any Acharya, if Ramana Maharshi, Ramakrishna, Vivekananda or anybody gives certain explanation, and you have to see from what standpoint he is giving and for which particular student he is giving that answer. That answer is applicable to this standpoint alone and to this particular student. Okay, now don't stretch that answer beyond it. That answer is valid only for that standpoint, and that standpoint is okay, nothing wrong. But if you take it as an absolute answer, it goes wrong. But now we out of our emotional respect for gurus, we say that no, whatever guru said is unconditionally true, absolutely true in any context, anywhere. In fact, this is the problem with all Islam and Christianity, the same thing. I think that if the same Bible and Quran was with Hindus, we would have given a much better explanation. We say clearly wherever he told is an angry explanation and etc. It refers to a given person, a given context, a given situation. Don't generalize it. And whatever is a good principle, universal principles, there you take them universal fact. Where it is a particular hatred, condemnation, criticism, take it as a given context. Sometimes they go totally wrong, illogical. We take them a metaphorical meaning because it is not literally true. And this is Hinduism. I feel this is the speciality of Hinduism. Hindus take whatever is valid, we take it. If it is going wrong, then we say, you look at it where it holds right. It holds right in this particular minor, very special context alone. If you take it in this particular special context, that particular sentence holds valid. Okay, take it as valid only for that. Don't generalize it. If suppose it goes totally logically wrong, then take it metaphorically in a different sense. This is how it is, because then everything falls into place. And this way of interpretation, this way of explanation, this explanation requires anubhava, logic, and a very reasonable explanation. This way of interpretation, this Guru Sampradaya, this tradition is missing for them. That's why all this extreme generalization, take it stubbornly, our Prophet told and we must accept it. This is going wrong. This is creating problem all over the world. And they say, oh, your Hindu books also say like that. If you take some Purana, somewhere we have got some kind of explanation. Okay. Now your Hindu Shastras also tell like that. Gandhiji, what you call, takes the shelter under this kind of explanation, talks to nonsense. He says, I will show in your Veda one statement, and I will also say that this alone is the explanation. Our people, Hindus who argued with Gandhiji, told, see, there may be certain funny statement or very, very hateful statement in Veda and Purana and somewhere. But there, you see our tradition, our whole tradition, the way of explanation. They say it is a more a figurative statement. Take the implication, don't take it literally. Take it a metaphorical explanation or figurative meaning or theoretical alone, not in the practical. We have got our own interpretation. We have got a full-fledged Vyakhyana Sampradaya. We call them interpretation. That's why we have got Acharyas. We sit together. What holds right? All that explanation we take it, and out of them, which holds the correct explanation according to universal fact, then this alone is right. Even if Acharya says, even if Upanishad says, we can't take it literally. Literally, it goes against the universal fact. You have to reject it, whoever says. Whether Rishi says, or Shankaracharya says, or Sachidananda Swamiji says, or Prakashananda says. Anybody says it all wrong. Wrong is wrong. Okay, wrong is wrong. So if this kind of explanation they had, then they would have become very sane. But unfortunately, they are not. Only emotional fellows, narrow-minded people, egoistic fellows, hateful people, intolerant people alone is their tradition. And Gandhiji told, yes, I will also show in your Veda. Therefore, any book is wrong. Therefore, don't find fault with them. Don't find fault with the Bible and Quran. They also meant like that. I said, this is a perversion. This is another perversion of Gandhiji. This not only Gandhiji, whole 20th century gurus. They keep on imposing neither the statement says, nor their teaching tradition, nor their interpretation tradition. The interpretation tradition of those religions, even within Hinduism also there are certain traditions of Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita, Arya Samaj and certain other people. They have got their own explanation. Why do you impose your explanations on them and say that they also mean Advaita? If supposing you take Madhvacharya, oh, Madhvacharya also is Advaitin alone. How can you say that? This is totally against their tradition. How can you do that? Sankhya is also Advaita, Vaisheshika is also Advaita. How can you say that? They are not. Oh, you are dividing people. Now they accuse me. You are dividing, you are hating, you are intolerant, you are seeing division, dividing the people. You should not divide. See everybody same, everybody is Brahman. Oh, everybody is respectable. This is another emotion. You see the difference? Where there is an emotion, emotionally see everybody, respect everybody, love everybody. After all, human beings, we may differ, we may have a different opinion. Even if we go wrong, love should not be denied to any person. Because everybody is the same human being like us. Everybody has a heart. We love everybody, we respect everybody because this is a human. Even if you go wrong, still we love you. Because that's a human nature. In human nature, just because he differs, just because he goes wrong, we should hate him. There is no such a thing. That is against very human nature. That is against any philosophical thinking also. Just because a person tells something differently, goes wrong, he tells a wrong idea, therefore you hate him. How can hatred is justified just because he goes wrong? Hatred is wrong wherever it is. If he goes wrong, so my hatred is justified. My killing him is justified. The idea is, he goes wrong, correct him. If he doesn't listen, wait for patience, give him time, but still stubborn that I have got a right to kill you. Then you resist him and kill him back. Because now he only just goes ahead for killing. Then that is the only way, is just stop him. Now he doesn't listen to anything. Idea should be discussed at the level of idea. Don't start implementing and hating him. And he says hating is my religion. Then he has to be controlled. If he says hating is religion, my God told me to hate, and hating is universal, unconditional hatred. It is not a conditional. It is not a given situation, given context, given person. Hatred, intolerance and killing is unanimous and unconditional. Then this is meaningless. This really has to be replied with same kind. You have to reply in the same kind. Because now what is the option now? What is the right option now? So this is the way in our tradition. We have got a Vyakhyana Sampradaya. Acharyas are there. That's why we say Shastra should not be taken literally. You have to see the Acharya. There, for an interpretation, what a commentaries. We have got a Mimamsa, we have got a logic, we have got a Tarka Shastra, we have got a Mimamsa, and we have got Anubhava. See, Upasana we have got. Vairagya we have got. One is, see, to be able to understand the Shastra, we have got 3 or 4 points. One is Mimamsa. Mimamsa is the exegesis, I think in English, I don't know the very difficult word it is. Analytical exegesis. My pronunciation may be wrong. That is certain principles of analyzing a statement in a given context of a book and trying to understand its meaning. This is a Mimamsa. And the logic, Tarka Shastra. That's why we study Tarka Shastra, we study Mimamsa. These are the 2 intellectual. We have to first cultivate a human nature, human personality to be able to understand the truth. One is Mimamsa Shastra, second is Tarka Shastra. Okay. Second is Vairagyam. A person should have a detachment. Okay. Person should be unprejudiced, free from hatred and ego, and free from hatred for intolerance. He should be open-minded. He is interested in fact. This is important. You can't compromise this. Any hateful person come and study Vedanta. Any prejudiced person come and study Vedanta, will teach you. You can't. If you come with a prejudice, you can't teach Vedanta, because your mind, your prejudice will destroy everything, every fact, every sane thinking. Okay. Basically, person should be a sane, open-minded, tolerant, trying to understand the fact as a fact. So this is emotionally you have to tackle. And then you need little upasana, little bhakti. Upasana bhakti is purifying your emotions, purifying your thinking, your personality, your discipline, your maturity. So this is also important. And the Tarka Mimamsa is also important. All these 3 are necessary part of Vedanta. Okay. Necessary means these also will. And the other religions lack these things. They say our organization is important, church is important, organizing is important, God-given right, and we have got right to control you. No, we just don't have these things. You see, all human society, their religion is one we form into one organized religion, and we use the money power, we use the political power, and we use the God-given power, and you have no right to question. This is my religion. They say religious freedom, and then you have no right to question. It is our dogma, you have no right to question. We have to take it religion. Now, this is where the whole thing starts problem. And this is another form of hatred and ego. Your dogma, your church represents nothing but ego and hatred. That's all. Ego, hatred, imperialism, colonizing, destroying cultures and destroying other religious symbols, customs, etc. All this is a what you call external expression of your inner ego and intolerance. And not only ego and intolerance, it is a lack of jignasa. This is most important. There is no sincere jignasa. Jignasa means an open search for truth. With an open mind, a search for truth, a seeking after the truth. This seeking is missing. The seeking after truth with an open mind is missing. If that is missing, then everything becomes a problem. Then that's what we call ego. That's what we call asura. This is what we mean. Asura is not an abusive term. It is a descriptive term. A particular nature is called asura. Asura is not an abusive term. Asura is not a condemning term. Asura is only a description. It is describing a particular quality. That's why we have not condemned anybody to eternal hell. Even asura has no eternal hell. Okay? Even asura. Even in Hindu society, there may be a human weaknesses, a certain problematic nature. He may be asura, but there is no eternal hell for him. Okay? He is not condemned. We are not advised to hate him. Shastra doesn't advise him to hate him, even if he is asura. Asura is a particular nature of mind we are describing. It is not a condemning nature. It is not an abusive word. Okay? That's why we use word asura. Don't think that we are abusing word asura is equal to kafir, asura is equal to heathen, and asura is not a heathen. Heathen is an abusive term. It's a condemning term. Asura is not a condemning term. It's a describing a particular nature, that's all. And is not associated any hatred with it. No hatred, no intolerance is associated with it. Okay? In that description of asura, hatred and intolerance is not associated. So therefore, I think this I have to touch again and again and again. When we discuss, people are incapable of discussing because they lack this searching mind, a very gentle, very loving nature, an open mind. Therefore, listen to everybody's idea. See the idea, whether it is right or wrong. Just we are interested in finding the fact, whoever says. So this kind of openness, a maturity of the personality, a free and open mind is required. Second is that logic and also mimamsa. These three are essential part of it. Then fourth is the guru tradition, the interpretation tradition of this Vyakhyana is coming from a tradition. That's why guru we call it. And that also is a traditional guru. See the difference? Guru you require because the words we take from our own jiva standpoint, from our own worldly standpoint, the words are conveying something deeper meaning. The deeper meaning guru is aware of because he has done it. His guru has helped him to shift his vision to a deeper level. Normal human level, mind level, time and space, individual level has to be dropped and you have to come to a universal fact. Though universal facts are present in all our life, in our heart, but our mind is continuously keeps missing because it is stuck with a misunderstanding, that is Adhyasa. Your Adhyasa is a standpoint. That standpoint has to be corrected. Your vision has to be shifted. So that's where Guru helps, because Guru himself received this help from his Guru. Now, when you are interpreting, the teaching method, teaching books, now the Shastra books also, when you have to interpret them, there are principles of interpretation. So all these things, so Guru and also a traditional Guru. Along with Shastra. Shastra and traditional Guru. These two together and also individual nature. The openness, you should be a seeker of truth and then you should be equipped with Mimamsa and Tarka. Then All this put together works well. If somewhere any one of them is defective, then naturally you are bound to have mistakes. The mistake becomes inevitable. If the mistake happens, now the solution is correct to the mistake. Again, come back to the facts. Again, that's a simple way. When there is a mistake, misunderstanding, correct it. When the misunderstanding is within me or within another person, analyze it. Again, probe it. Again, explain. Investigate into it. Then you come to the fact. This is a simple, straight way of learning, growing, investigating, and moving on. Hatred, intolerance, judging, and then ex cathedra pronouncements that you will be eternally damned and all that. These are all kingly orders. Kingly order is not Vedanta, is not a finding of a truth. Science doesn't follow the kingly orders, royal orders. Okay, that is all for dogma and judgments. There is no judgment, there is no dogmas. Therefore, it has to be understood. It requires a very totally different personality, a learning mind, an open mind, and goes on point by point. Therefore, now when Bhamatikara says, his explanation is valid from a given standpoint, but it can't be taken from Atma-anatma Adhyasa. It can be taken in a Vyavaharik. Vyavaharik means, I told you two things just now. One is Atma-anatma Adhyasa, another is detailed Adhyasa of the body and other things. Okay? Body, mind and sense organs. Body Adhyasa can have a samskara. That is a detailed Adhyasa. Detailed Adhyasa means one is a general Adhyasa, another is a specific Adhyasa. In specific Adhyasa, you may have a samskara. Okay? Take it mind in general and mind of a specific nature. Body in general and a body of a specific nature. I think I started today's pravachana with these differences. So here, in body of specific nature may have a samskara. But body in general is one thought, one whole thought. It is like world as a whole and world as a given object. World as a given object, the world consists of various objects. World as a given object will have a samskara. But world as a whole is one state which includes time and space. The whole waking as a state doesn't have a samskara. So the state as a whole, if you take Adhyasa of a state as a whole, doesn't have a samskara. Because all samskara means cause and effect. So the cause and effect is included within the state. State as a whole has no cause has no cause outside the state. All cause and effect are included within the state. Therefore, the state as a whole doesn't have a cause outside the state. If you take state as a whole, now you can't talk of its samskara. But if you take a smaller instances of body identification and then what you call time and place and the objects, etc., a given object, identification of given object, each object wise you can have a samskara. Samskara means impression of it, a memory of it. A memory of it or impression of it of a given object. The specific body, okay, that can have a samskara. But whole as a state, whole as a general has no samskara. That's why when Swamiji did not explain so details, probably it is understood. You look at these things, if you make bare translation, you will not be able to understand it. Unless you keep this explanation in view, you won't be able to understand this thing. Because you see this explanation, this whole paragraph, Swamiji just explained, probably he thought that it is clear, but this requires all this explanation. Bijankuradivat avidyakrita samsaraha kriyakara kapaladhyaropa lakshano anadiranantaha anartaha iti bhashyakarenapi angikarat. Bhashyakara also accepted in the detailed body. That means the particular body, the particular object, this is called a Vyavaharik standpoint. So this empirical standpoint, a particular body can have samskara. But if you take it as a body in general, it can't have. A particular object of the world can have a samskara. Object of the world. But world as a whole, called as a state. If you take the world as a whole, it is called a state. State as a whole cannot have samskara. Samskara means cause. Cause means outside the state. Now you can't think of outside the state. Okay, the cause and effect is within the state. So this is the thing. So Swamiji says that this empirically it is okay, because Bhashyakara also says, Bhashyakara doesn't touch this empirical often at all. Very rarely one place he touches it. I think the whole thing once or two places alone. This samskara, bija and samskara, what you call bija and ankura, very rarely I think in Brihadaranyaka, one place, in Sutra Bhashya once or twice, that's all. He doesn't touch that. This Vyavaharik standpoint he doesn't touch. He touches more from the Atma standpoint, absolute standpoint alone. Therefore, Vrutterhi Vrutyantaro. Now here Swamiji is coming to the next sentence. Vrutterhi Vrutyantaro Udaye Sati Swakarane Layat. So, when one vritti of a given thought, here vritti, this explanation, I think Swamiji's statement is too sweeping. Too sweeping means in this one sentence, what I have explained in 1 hour, in I think 40 minutes today, all this has to be kept in mind. Otherwise, this one sentence becomes difficult. Swamiji just put it in sweepingly in one sentence. He thought that students would understand. So, Vrutteha Vrutyantarodaye. Here the Vritti is two. One is, whole state is one Vritti, state of a given object. As I told you, Vishesha and Samanya. General world and a given object. General body and a given body. General world and a given object in the world. Okay, if you take a given object in the world, a given thought of an object, that thought goes away. Take a book. Book is a one object in the world, in the state, whole waking state. So that one object you think of it, and when you change your mind, change your thought, the book doesn't go away simply. Book leaves a certain memory, certain impression in your mind. Later somebody again talks of book, instantly the idea of book comes to you, because you have an impression, you have gathered, the subconscious mind has gathered the memories and impression of the book. So here, this vritti, when vritti passes off, that means vritti ceases, it leaves samskara. So it is understandable. Okay. Vrutterhi Vrutyantarodaye sati swakarane laya tat samskaropi kaschit shakya kalpanaha. Okay, but ata evahi punarapi swavasare swajatiya vrutyantarodaya sambhavati. Therefore, that you have a thought of a book, now you saw a book. Afterwards, when you are recalling a book, you can easily recall, because you had an experience of a book, and its memories also remain in your mind. The memory or the impression. With the help of the impression, you can recall the book again. Similarly, you have seen the snake before, and again, when you see the rope here, your mind carries that subconscious memory, subconscious impressions of the snake. Therefore, seeing a rope in a dim light, you think that, it might be snake. So, to be able to mistake the snake, you require a previous memory, previous samskara. This samskara is possible regarding a given object within the world. But vastutastu, is the next sentence. Now is coming to the Paramarthika drishti. Vastutastu nakopi hetu phalam va anadhyastam bhavati. This cause and effect, that is samskara and adhyasa, happen within the state. But to the whole state as a whole, no samskara is possible. This is the point Shankara is trying to say. Okay. Yo hi svikriyate hetutvena phalatvena va samskaraha. Therefore, samskara produces adhyasa, adhyasa produces samskara. This one, sopi adhyasto nava. Now, this cause and effect, samskara, adhyasa, is it within the state or not? Is it within the state as a whole, means whole adhyasa? Is this whole adhyasa or not? If it is adhyasta, then avidya kalpita eva syat. This is only adhyasa. You can't have cause again. You can't put the samskara outside adhyasa. If samskara is also adhyasta, then samskara, adhyasa all put together is one adhyasa. You can't think of anything outside adhyasa. Okay. Ata anadhyastha. If you say that samskara is not adhyasta, that is outside state, tada paramartha eva syat. If samskara is outside a state, then that would become real. Syat na avidya nivarta ishti iti anishtama padyate. It would not be, it would become real. Then if it is a real, it will become equal to Brahma. It won't go by jnanam. Then Brahman is not non-dual. Brahma and something, Prakriti. You have to add two things. So that would go wrong. Na chaivam shankyam. I think I'll stop with it. Though it is only 50 minutes, we have got 10 more minutes, but I think I'll stop it. So, this point we touched briefly in the previous class, but here I explained a little more, thinking that probably it was not clear to some people at least. Some sharp people might have understood. So, for them today's explanation is not required. It is superfluous. So, but for some people today's explanation will be of some help. Now, another argument he is touching. I think this argument we'll see next. Okay. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Narayan Narayan.